I think the unpopular topic of the day is going to be a little bit of a cautionary tale, a little bit of me gloating, a little bit saying that I know what I'm talking about, and this is just me validating what I already know. In sports, there's this thing that we talk about a lot. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast. A lot of media outlets, ESPN, Fox, a lot of other podcasts, they've talked about it. Bleacher Report's talked about it. That thing is called a championship window. Some teams never have championship windows. As unfortunate as it is, some teams have never had a championship window. Some teams, championship windows are open a lot longer than others. For instance, the Patriots championship window was open a lot longer than most teams. Golden State Warriors championship window was open longer than a lot of other teams. The one thing about championship windows, though, is they close. And one thing that I've always said, and one thing that is true, is that once it closes, there are instances where it never opens up again. So cherish what that was, or it takes so long to open back up again for some organizations. The organization that I'm talking about today is the Chicago Bulls. And how the Chicago Bulls is kind of a cautionary tale, you know. We know about the rich history of the Chicago Bulls. You had arguably the greatest player of all time in Michael Jordan. 6 championships. Could have been more if Michael Jordan didn't retire for 2 years. The Bulls dynasty is one of the greatest dynasties in sports history. There was a time where you looked up and there was nobody even close to the Bulls. And any single time the Bulls went to the NBA Finals, you kind of knew that they were walking out with the Larry O'Brien trophy. Their championship window was a decade. But have you really taken a look at the Bulls since that championship window? Now, yes, they've had moments. They've had players. They've had flashes. We saw Derrick Rose, youngest MVP in NBA history. We saw Jimmy Butler. We saw Joakim Noah. We saw Pau Gasol in later half of his career. We saw Rajon Rondo later half of his career. We saw Dwayne Wade later half of his career. We saw the Chicago Bulls make it to the Eastern Conference Finals to ultimately lose to LeBron James and the Cavaliers. We've seen moments, but we've never seen the Chicago Bulls get back to that championship caliber level that they used to be. And they damn sure ain't got no dynasty type level that we have seen in the past. Moments can shape a history or the history of a team. For the longest, and this kind of goes back to my previous topic, Orlando Magic. Dwight Howard leaving changed that franchise for so long. that they're just now getting back to relevancy. Cleveland, LeBron James leaving. That changes the trajectory of a team. Now, yes, you have Darius Garland and you have Donovan Mitchell, but nobody really looks at Cleveland as a championship caliber team. In fact, right now, Cleveland sits at 8th in the standings. Jordan retiring for a second time. The only reason the championship window isn't completely closed for the Golden State Warriors because they have a generational player still playing at a elite level, and that is Steph Curry. But if you look at everything around him on that team, Draymond Green has slowed down, and he's become more of a nuisance, at least recently, than a solution. Klay Thompson is not what he used to be. Andrew Wiggins is not what he used to be. Championship windows close. And when they close, it sometimes never opens back up. You look at this Bulls team. Just look at the state of this Bulls team. You have players that don't fit with each other. A bunch of one-dimensional players. They've been talking about blowing this up for the longest. They just haven't done it. DeMar DeRozan's about to be up out of here. Zach LaVine's about to be up out of here. I know that they saw this grand picture with them two and Lonzo Ball, but I would push back and say, even with Lonzo Ball, I don't think that this was a championship. That would have been a championship caliber team, especially when you look at the landscape of the NBA. This team is the Chicago Bulls right now is in that place that you never want to be. I know there's two places. There is the middle of the pack. Never want to be that. That's kind of like the Brooklyn Nets right now, the Atlanta Hawks, the Utah Jazz, the Houston Rockets. You never want to be middle of the pack. You also never want to wallow in dysfunction. I say this a lot. You never want to be the last to change. Well, the Chicago Bulls is the prime example of a team that is last to change. We know they should have been blew up, this DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine pairing. Now you look up. Now they're probably going to have to give up more than they originally want to because everyone knows that they have to go. One of them has to go, or both. Now you're not going to get that good of a job. The Chicago Bulls is a cautionary tale. I say this a lot. Never be the last person to know that you need to pivot. Never be the last person to know that you need to change. Well, the Chicago Bulls have missed that point. Kind of like the Wizards before they did what they did. The Wizards should have... John Wall, when the John Wall, Bradley Beal, you knew you hit the ceiling. But they just kept trying. Now you see the predicament that the Wizards is in. Well, the Bulls should have been done that. And the last thing I'm going to say is, like I've said before, cherish championship windows and capitalize on championship windows. That's why I never understood why people so aggressively bank on the future instead of the present, especially when they have a championship caliber team. Because if you look at the Bulls should be the prime example of why you should not do that. Because look at the Jordan, Pippen, Steve Kerr, Will Perdue, Luke Longley, Horace Grant, Tony Kukoc, Phil Jackson as the coach. You look at that team, that dynasty, Dennis Rodman. You look at that dynasty and compare it to what we're seeing from the Chicago Bulls today. The Chicago Bulls could not be further from a championship. And the only reason why they're not considered the worst team in basketball is because the Memphis Grizzlies, the San Antonio Spurs, the Washington Wizards, and the Detroit Pistons also exist. Oh man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.